So there is so many things that are happening within this chapter. So many different characters, so many different perspectives, so many different dialogue options, so many different emotions. There is a cluster of a lot of information going around. And it's a really good thing to get a lot of this perspective, right? Because it adds a lot to our knowledge, to our understanding of the situation, but more so to the general reception, the public's reception to this outcome, to the rumbling, to the Titans, to the death and destruction that has already been caused within Paradise. This was something that I was pretty interested in for quite a bit, on how people would perceive Eren just activating the rumbling in the first place, but more so the consequences of the Titans walking across from the walls. How much death and destruction would that cause just from doing that? And we get to see the direct result for it, the conflict between the everyday people, on one hand justifying Eren's actions, and on the other trying to overthrow him, trying to downplay him, and being extremely upset with what he's doing because so many innocent people are dying because of what Eren is doing. I think it's important to see that conflict, and I think Isayama done a very great job in perceiving both sides, showcasing how the general reception, how the general public view Eren and his actions at the moment from these situations. A lot of people are claiming that these sacrifices are needed and worthy of the freedom that Eren is going to obviously achieve to some extent. But then on the other hand, people are still so distraught and upset and emotional about losing their loved ones and seeing all of this death surrounding them. Is it even worth it? The conflict between those two perspectives is really well done, and it sets a really nice tone for the entirety of the chapter, because throughout it we get so many different point of views with people thinking differently and so clustered and overclocked and honestly not really sure on what they should and shouldn't do. There's so much stuff going on at the moment that some people just want to give up and let go and go to sleep in Armin's case, but they know that's not a possibility. Other people are just idly going by and trying to make the best of what they can with the remaining time that they can. Other people are trying to make things easier for Eren. Other people are trying to make it hard for Eren. Like, there's so many different things that are going on, so many different conflicts, and this has resulted in the nation of Paradise and the people within Paradise to be completely fractured and splintered. You're either with Eren or you're against Eren, or you really don't know what to do. You really don't know how to comprehend it all. They kick off the chapter with Hitch, who is someone that we don't really see all too often. So I think another thing with this chapter is that they play on the subtlety of a lot of minor characters that we haven't seen in quite a bit of time, or that we usually don't get that much attention for. Definitely shifts the value of what Eren's doing, and the previous chapters with Zeke and Eren and the original Ymir, and how highly valuable that was compared to the more subtle value of these minor characters and how they view these things. The not so important characters, to put simply. A lot of people may like this perspective and a lot of people may hate it, so I guess it falls into your own likes and wants. So we had a confrontation between Hitch and Annie. This is something that was needed for quite a bit of time. I wouldn't be surprised if people are still weird about the whole Annie situation, just because she's really been irrelevant for a very long time, but now she's coming back into the story very full-throttledly and honestly getting a lot of impactful stuff towards her character and her past, and I definitely feel this is Isayama trying to rebuild that relatability, rebuild that emotion and that want to understand Annie a lot further from what we originally remember her by giving her this impactful backstory and how she sees things and how she views things, which is extremely important, mind you. Remember how I said that the tone of this chapter is pretty much set from the beginning? Annie is a really good indication of that. The Hitch and Annie confrontation is pretty simple at first. Annie is really not in the best of conditions. She's extremely weak. She even threatens to kill Hitch by turning into a Titan, but she's obviously too weak. But Hitch actually makes the decision to take Annie out of the city on horseback. And along their little horseback journey, we find out that Annie was able to listen in on every single conversation that took place outside of the crystal. It felt like a distant dream to her. And I wouldn't be surprised if Annie felt the comfort of the people talking outside of that crystal, because it brought her back to reality a little bit, because she references when people weren't talking, or she wasn't hearing any sort of conversation, that it was just an abyss of darkness and it was cold and there was nothing to be interpreted whatsoever. Even though she doesn't explicitly say it, I definitely think she appreciated, even if it was hatred or slander or some sort of negative connotation towards her, she appreciated the fact that it brought her back to this dreamlike state. It was hazy, hazy and a little bit all over the place, but it was something that she could comprehend and latch on to. 4 years is an extremely long time to be in and out of that state, and it's something that she probably wanted to escape from rather quickly. Seemingly she couldn't do it on her own. She was in a somewhat comatose state. With this, she's learned a lot of information about a lot of different people. Hitch, Armin, for example, the whole situation with Eren, and it catches her up to speed pretty quickly. With this, however, we find out her value towards life, and this is something that I think Annie has needed for a very long time. Obviously, she's been put in the crystal, she's been in the crystal for so many years within the story, and so many years with us reading it. We've never really had that emotional connection with Annie. She's never really had that backstory to fuel those answers for us on why she is the way she is. Why is she so cold and calculated? Is there more to Annie? She just seemed like an extremely prominent fighter that wasn't necessarily as emotional as we thought. But this backstory that we get for her, how she was brought up with her father and how she was trained to pretty much be a ruthless killer, but then her father ultimately reeling her back into reality and telling her to come home safely, fractured her a little bit. You see her jump in character within that flashback. She was trained to be the way she was and even turned on her father for putting her through all of that, but yet when her deployment to paradise was well and truly on the way, her father begged her to not go. How he begged her to survive and live and begged for her forgiveness. How he was so sorry for raising her the way he did because he done it with malicious intent, trying to get rich off his adopted child. And I should probably put that into perspective. Annie was adopted by this person. Her parents were killed, or at least she was thrown away because of her half Eldian bloodline, etc., etc. So the relatability with her father and what her father put her through, but then how he begged for her forgiveness because he himself was also an Eldian from a different nation, but also in the internment camps within Mali, really hits home and shows the Annie now on how she really doesn't care about anything. That her value towards life, towards people, towards even herself is honestly non-existent. And it's quite a terrifying thing, but the one thing she still kind of latches onto is the hope that her father is still alive, and that she latches onto a promise that she would return home to see him. It was well done and well needed, that's for sure. Where she goes from here, however, I'm not entirely sure. There's so many different situations going on within this chapter that Annie is honestly kind of small within it. Even though she's somewhat of an anomaly at this point, she is a Titan shifter that is out and about that no one really knows about other than Armin and Hitch, obviously. She plays a pretty big part in a power discrepancy that can come in handy, whether it's towards Eren or towards another situation entirely. So I don't know how far she's going to get. I don't know who she's going to come in contact with, but she's definitely starting to play a more important role. And whether you like it or you hate it is obviously entirely up to you. But for me, I am glad that Isayama has finally gave her that impact, that weight behind her that we've been waiting for so long, and that he didn't just bring her out and let her kind of fade away into some non-existent state. She is playing a vital role, and her viewpoint towards all of this is very interesting. There was a very small segment of people within Mali being extremely scared about what's going on with Eren and the fact that he's obviously going to destroy the world. Mali is not okay with this. They think that the Eldian people within these internment camps are going to overthrow the Malian Empire and think they're plotting and scheming. So what we are seeing within Mali and within the internment camps is Eldian people so scared of Eren that they are actually overthrowing the Malian guards and fighting back. For their own personal reasons, obviously, because they want to live, they want to run away, they don't want to be here when Eren demolishes everything. The overthrow of the government, the overthrow of powerful people is starting to have this ripple effect. It started with Eren pushing this dream onto people, showing people that the world is going to be destroyed, bringing every single Eldian across the globe. If this is happening within Mali, this is happening within other places across the globe. And this is a very massive step for Eldians to slowly start to free themselves, not out of Eren's push or want for people to be free, but because they're scared of him. They don't have faith in Eren to come and save them. They're taking it in their own hands to overthrow the people that are holding them captive or have got them in camps. This is a really big thing. Eren has instilled this indirectly and is causing this ripple effect most likely across the globe. It doesn't inherently overthrow the balance of all of these empires and nations and people that think alike towards the Eldian people, but it is a step in a right direction. It wasn't played upon all too much, but I would be well and truly happy if we got a little bit more of it in the upcoming chapters, seeing the perspective from Marley and even outside of Marley, because we're ever so slowly getting more and more people. The rest of the world is starting to fill in ever so slowly. More people are coming in from outside of Marley, more people across the globe and their perspectives. So I think seeing snippets of that and playing on it a little bit more, I would be really happy with. It adds to the grand scheme of things, the total picture, which I think is extremely well needed for the clarity in what Eren is doing and what he has pretty much subconsciously started within Eldians across the globe. Honestly, I felt extremely bad when it came to the Armin and Mikasa situation. Armin is so confused. He is so caught up within his head and that he's going to chase after Connie, but he doesn't really know how to handle the Eren situation. He's even second guessing himself. He said that if Commander Erwin was here, that there would be a lot more organization to things, that people would have some sort of coherency going on around them, and that him being brought back was not needed. That it should have been Erwin and not him. I feel for Armin in this. It goes to show the level of stress and anxiety and just general disconnection to absolutely everything. The events surrounding him are so monolithic, so impactful. One wrong step can throw everything that's going on right now into the severely worse direction. But you could argue that we're already in the severely worse direction. And unfortunately, that's the tragic beauty of it. Armin does not know what to do with Eren. No one knows what to do with Eren. So seeing Armin, this intelligent character that we've known him to be, struggle to think of a cohesive plan to confront Eren, to even confront Connie and figure out what's going on, is almost heartbreaking. This same thing is happening on different magnitudes with a lot of other people, and us as readers somewhat just feel like Mikasa listening to Armin break down and struggle to even comprehend his own thoughts. She's standing there waiting to be told what to do and being yelled at and pretty much dumbfounded by Armin spilling out all of this emotion. She doesn't know what to do. No one knows what to do. In reality, this event is so much bigger than themselves and they're trying to comprehend it, but it's so tiring, it's so difficult. This very one-sided interaction between Armin and Mikasa was phenomenal. Slowly, the wheels are turning, people are being put into place, and the importance of these said characters are slowly standing out more and more. Armin, Annie, Gabby, Mikasa, Levi, Hanji, these people are slowly shining more and more, and the collective mindset between all of them will most likely put something into play. We don't know what it's going to be, but whatever they come up with, whatever they decide to do, it's going to shape and direct the story in a response to Eren and in a response to the rest of the world. The moment with the Jaegerist, with Flock, so many conflicting emotions, so many conflicting point of views that it's really hard to pinpoint who the good person is and who the bad person is. And that's what's beautiful about Attack on Titan, is that there's never really someone that's inherently good or inherently evil. Everyone has their own agenda, their own personal goal, wants and needs, and they all want to support what's going to make them live by the end of the day. And this is what Flock has been doing for quite a bit of time. He has known Eren's goal, and now he's trying to convince the Jaegerists that were originally with Zeke's plan to come on board with Eren's plan. He's very cold-hearted about it, somewhat lightly semi-torturing them, but trying to convince them, giving them time. Even though time is a very important thing right now with everything that's going on, seeing Yin's reaction to that, seeing Mikasa's reaction to that is very powerful. What you're seeing Flock do is something somewhat similar to what Marley do to their people, in a very different way, but the idea that it's better to kneel to the side that you want to join instead of dying for this cause, and showcasing this by the person that Flock actually kills, is very powerful. Trying to convince these people to join, being a representative for Eren. A lot of people are very skewed about this. There's a lot of ambiguity with this, because the way Flock approaches this situation is honestly very psychotic, almost like he's been possessed or somewhat manipulated to feel or think this type of way. That's how powerful it comes across. That's how inherently deep it's rooted into Flock and how he believes in this situation. It's very similar to how Marley handle their children and how they handle the people that try to oppose them, if they give them an opportunity or not. And it's something that we're seeing now. And this was the inner conflict between people that I was talking about before, and how the tone of this chapter is showing the different perspectives on how people are conflicted conflicted about what they want to do and what they want to join and achieve and everything in between. Eren is the flagship of all of this at the moment, and this is what he is causing. Eren is not directly pushing this type of agenda that Floch is doing, but this is the cause and effect that is happening. This is what the reality of this situation is and how people are going to handle it. So going into the finale of the chapter, we have two different things. We have Connie and Falco and the Card Titan and Hanji and Levi. Starting off with Connie and Falco, the conversation between them is very bittersweet. As much as Connie is very personal about this situation and very selfish to wanting to turn his mother back into a human, you can feel for him that this is something that he's really wanted to do for an extremely long time, and the opportunity has finally come around for it, but you can see that he's struggling to overcome that hurdle that he's going to have to kill this child. The cost of his mother becoming human again is, or at least a Titan shifter, is the cost of this child's life. And I think you can really see that balancing act that Connie is doing on trying to bring some sort of sense to himself on whether this is worth it or not. And I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks right at the last minute. He puts up a really strong front and that he's really going to do this, but the more that Falco is talking to him and bringing in this relatability and this sense of trust and value towards Connie, the more Connie seems like he's being persuaded and guilt is starting to overthrow him. The thing with Falco is that he doesn't actually remember what happened. He doesn't know that he's a Titan shifter at the moment, so if worse comes to worse, Falco will turn into a Titan shifter and fight back. I think with what Falco's been through, his reception towards people manipulating him is at an all-time high. As much as he's very thankful for Connie, in his head he still seems very unaware and nervous and unsure about the whole situation, about Connie specifically. He's not questioning the integral parts of it, but he is questioning the overall plan, the overall point of view. I don't see this going all too well with Connie for the most part. I actually see him dying in the next couple of chapters because there's so much attention going towards this altercation with Connie, Falco, Gabby and Armin on the way, and then not too far out we have the Card Titan, one of the commanders I believe, and Hanji and Levi. They're very close to one another and I wouldn't be surprised if something goes down within there. I think that's pretty safe to assume at this point. Going onto the Card Titan and one of the commanders pretty much groveling on the ground, trying to avoid all of the Wall Titans walking past. They set this tone of the survival of Mali, its army, its people, and the rest of the globe, and that there is really no way to stop this. We obviously know this, but seeing this from Mali's point of view, how they're viewing all of this death and destruction right in front of them, and how they literally have nothing in place to stop this is very impactful. But they're quickly approached by Hanji, and she seems rather deceptive, as she usually does, in saying that there's no one harmful in the back of the car, it's just a very injured person that fails to die, and obviously that is Levi. That in itself ends off the whole chapter. I love how everything is centering towards these independent massive moments. I also forgot to mention that Annie is somewhat on the path towards Connie. I'd assume that's where she's going to end up, unless she ends up in the path of Eren for some reason, but it seems like she's going to end up face to face with Connie and Gabby and Armin and everyone in between. So then not too far away from them probably is going to be Hanji and Levi and the Card Titan. So I'm interested to see how all of these people collectively come together and obviously deal with the situation that is Connie and Falco being a Titan shifter, but also how they plan to potentially work together or formulate some sort of plan. Hanji is a very big player within all of this. She's extremely intelligent. You mix her with Armin, they're going to come up with some very cohesive plans. The big hitters, however, which is Annie once she starts to regain her power, and even Levi, even though their injuries aren't necessarily known to the fullest extent on how well they could operate, I think when push comes to shove, they will be needed and they will go all out. Seeing Levi in the state that he is so unknown to us, but it makes me think that at any moment he's going to obliterate a bunch of people. Even though he's so heavily injured, I just see it happening in the upcoming chapters. He's obviously going to be extremely weakened, but I think his close brush with death is going to push him so much further, and the value of this situation being so extremely high is going to push him way past his limits than we have ever seen, and because of his injuries, obviously. And kind of similar to Annie, even though she doesn't really care about many things, I feel like meeting up with Armin, Gabby, Falco, Connie, Hanji, Levi is going to change her perspective quite a bit, and how she plans to be an anomaly towards all of this situation. She is the only Titan shifter pretty much unaccounted for throughout all of this, if you don't want to count the Card Titan, which is kind of scurrying around and hiding, and we don't even know know where Zeke is at this point. So this chapter was extremely well done. A lot of information, a lot of different point of views, a lot of different conflicts and emotions, and you really feel the tension rise so much more within these chapters. Even though the event is so massive and so impactful, seeing so many people stressed out in so many different ways shows how powerful this ripple effect is. Seeing the so far very small and minuscule death and destruction that Eren has already caused with the Wall Titans has thrown people into a crazy loop. And the conflict is only just beginning between the everyday people and the citizens towards the main cast. How they start to formulate a plan and how they start to bring some sort of coherency to this stressful situation is going to be extremely important for the upcoming interactions and fights that potentially may go down. Overall, an extremely enjoyable chapter. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but worthwhile to see a lot of point of views that are extremely impactful and important. So with that being said, that is basically it. I want to thank you all for watching. Let me know how you feel about the chapter. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I'm actually going to end the video off here. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.